Yeah, the reverse swing happens later. So reverse swing happens later with the older ball, where basically you rough up one side, so it gets really dry. And you want to keep no moisture on the ball. So the thing with the reverse swing is you don't want to, you probably see people putting sweat and spit on the ball and shining it. That's more for conventional swing. So you have one side really shiny. But with reverse swing, you want one side really rough and dry. So the red ball is used in Test cricket, and it tends to swing more, and it tends to be, as a bowler, you prefer bowling with the red ball. It does more. And then you watch one-day cricket and you see the white ball does nothing. It just gets hit around. I just think the lacquer on the white ball doesn't swing as much. We play a lot of 2020 cricket in Scotland because we have long days in the summer.
Who is your cricketing idol?
Oh, MS Dhoni.
Dhoni?
Yeah.
Wow. I actually come from the same city as Dhoni.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I met him twice actually. Once before he became successful, and once after he became successful. Very down-to-earth man.
In England, for example, they'll always try and put a lot of grass on the pitch so the ball swings and moves. And in India, obviously, they're dust balls that spin and turn. But that's partly due to weather conditions.
Welcome to the Rollover Show, another episode of Rollover Show. In this episode, we're going to talk about cricket, international cricket, Scottish cricket, all about cricket. Fun facts about cricket, techniques about cricket. Our guest today is an ex-player of Scottish cricket team. He played for under 15, under 19. He was made captain of his club at the age of 19 years. He captained his team for 13 years under his wing. Lots of important players have played, including likes of Shreyas Iyer when he was young. He's still young, but he did play under our guest's captaincy. He has played in lower division of Scottish cricket to top premiership side. He has won 2 league championship and 3 Scottish Cups. He's been awarded so many awards, including Lanarkshire Sports Personality of the Year and Scottish Under 23 Player of the Year. His name is Doctor Ricky Bawa. He's by profession a doctor, but his hobby is all about cricket. Welcome to the show, Dr. Ricky Bawa. Or shall I call you Captain Ricky Bawa?
You just call me Ricky, thanks.
Okay.
Thanks for the introduction.
How are you today?
I'm very good, thank you.
You are by profession a doctor. Yeah. You own a GP practice, and you've been playing cricket since your childhood. I guess 7-year-old.
Yeah, since I was about 6 or 7. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Tell me about your journey. How did it all start?
Well, basically, we used to live. My dad was a doctor, and he used to work in Monklands Hospital, which is in Airdrie. And next to that, very near the ground, was a local cricket club.
Okay.
So we used to watch cricket on the TV.
This was back when?
This was
90s.
Yeah,
90s.
This would have been 80s.
Okay.
80s.
Okay.
So this was about 40 years ago. Yeah, we used to, being Asian, used to watch cricket on the TV, used to play in the back garden with my older brother and stuff. So we used to play, we used to like it. And so my dad took us down to the local cricket club.
Okay.
I was one of the youngest there, and was a little bit scared initially to go down, being only 6. But I went down and started off and enjoyed it, and then carried on from there and played every...
Were you not scared of the hard ball?
Well, that's an interesting point you make, because nowadays the youngsters, when they start off, they play with a softball. So we train, when we coach now the youngsters, they don't play with a hard ball until they're ready, and that can be sometimes when they're 10, 11 years old. But in those days, there was no such thing. You would just go in with the older boys. There's a cricket ball, get on with it. And there was no helmets. Well, there were helmets, but the junior cricket, you didn't wear them. So it was actually, if you're thinking back, it was actually probably a little bit dangerous. But I suppose it toughened you up and got you used to it, and probably made me a better better cricketer because I was playing with older kids with a hard ball who are faster bowlers. You just have to get used to it.
Okay. I mean, we are same age almost. When I started playing in India, normally we play gully cricket.
Yes.
You call it gully cricket. And you can't afford to play hardball. Obviously, you will shatter everybody's neighbor's window. So you end up playing softball.
Yes.
Plus the scare is that, like you said, there's no protective gear or something, and you end up getting smashed by a hard ball. It's quite tough.
I think they use tape ball, isn't it? They get a tennis ball and you tape it up. That's called tape ball. So
tape ball. So
they use that in they still play. There's a tape ball tournament actually in Glasgow, which is played with all the Asian players because that's where they used to play in Pakistan and India.
Okay.
So you have a tape ball tournament where it's basically a tennis ball taped up, and the reason for that is tennis ball bounces too much.
Okay.
The ball is too bouncy, so you don't want to be. The ball bouncing.
And they play it in Glasgow. They
play in Glasgow, yeah. They have indoor tournaments and even outdoor tournaments they have.
All right.
But in the winter it's good because you can get a hall inside and you can play with a tape ball. And you can't play with a cricket ball indoor. It doesn't bounce properly. But
were you involved with these tournaments or no?
No, I'm not.
No, but you just heard about it.
I know about them.
Okay.
I know about them, yeah.
Okay, so that's how it all started. And eventually you started playing for under 15 and
so then I played club cricket. I mean, I played for fun. It was a hobby, like you say, and just so happened I was good at it, and I was lucky enough to be initially selected for district cricket, so representing the West region of Scotland, and then from there I ended up going for Scotland squad training, and then got picked up for Scotland sides.
You were a bowler all-rounder?
I was a bowling all-rounder.
Bowling
yes.
all-rounder.
Yes, bowling
okay.
all-rounder. Yeah.
Tell me one thing. When I grew up watching cricket for like India-Pakistan cricket team, Imran Khan and Wasim Akram and Kapil Dev, there used to be a lot of all-rounders those days. Why is it so hard to get all-rounders now? It's very hard to get by all-rounders these days. Why?
I think it's just difficult to do both disciplines well, and all three disciplines well. They were exceptional players in the past, and I think now the coaches and everything, they focus on what you're good at.
Okay.
And unless you're exceptional in two things, inevitably you'll focus in on one. And I think that those days, there were some excellent all-rounders, but they were perhaps only one or two per team. It wasn't like there was loads. It's just because they were now not the same standard of all-rounder we have nowadays, apart from maybe Ben Stokes and maybe Ravindra Jadeja and Pandya. You have the odd few, but because of the amount of cricket they play, the one-day cricket, the T20 cricket, it's very hard for them to be multi-format players and also multi-speciality players and be a bowler and a batsman, because bowling takes a lot out of you, especially fast bowlers. So it's very hard to be, and those all-rounders you're talking about were quick bowlers. So it is hard to be a quick bowler and then also be able to bat and concentrate on your batting. The two skills it's easier to do it at a lower level. So you have a lot of all-rounders you would see in the international under-19 teams and under-15 teams. So even if you look at the Indian side at the moment or the England side at the moment, there'd be lots of all-rounders. But once they step up and they go to adult cricket,
need to focus on a particular aspect.
Focus on a particular aspect. And
so when you were playing for under-15, did you get to play Indian under-15 team?
No, I didn't play the Indian under-15 teams. We played England under-15s, played Ireland, played West Indies.
Okay.
Didn't unfortunately play the Indian team at the time.
Do you remember any of the players from the West Indies teams who moved on to the national team? Yes.
So when we played West Indies, Chris Gale was in the West Indies team.
Wow.
And unfortunately, I missed the game against India, the under-19 game we were going to play against India, because I had ruptured my biceps muscle. So I was injured and I couldn't play, obviously, for 6 months.
That was just before the match?
That was about 2 or 3 months before the game was scheduled. So
how did that happen? While bowling, or?
It was just bowling, obviously, repetitive bowling, trying to increase the speed and pace and working very hard to do that. And when I was bowling one day, I just got this shearing pain in my shoulder. And basically when I went for the scans and stuff, it showed that it was a...
What advice would you give to younger boys to not have that?
I think
What
it's very
happens?
hard because I think fast bowlers are always going to pick up injuries, whether it's hamstrings or backs or. I think the main thing is strengthening. I think the main thing is muscle strengthening in the gym. I think it's very important to go to the gym. It's also important to have rest periods. I think the one problem when I was playing cricket 6 days out of 7, for 6 months of the year, and I think the problem is if you're doing that, there is a recipe as a fast bowler for injuries. And when you're young, you think you can do it, and you can because you're fit and you're healthy. But the damage you're doing to your body by that repetitive motion can harm you, obviously. So I would encourage all youngsters to work hard with their fitness and their muscle bulk, and go to the gym, and also have days of rest and not over bowl. If they're a fast bowler, they shouldn't be bowling for 2 hours at a time. They need to take breaks because that's what will injure you. And now there are guidelines, so there are ECB guidelines of how many overs
You can
a
do
fast
in
bowler can bowl in a match before they need to have a break. So if you've got an under-19 match and it's 10 overs a bowl or ODI conditions, the youngster is not allowed to bowl 10 overs in a row. He has to take a
Brett Lee
break.
has done it.
Yeah.
Brett Lee has done it 10 overs in a row in a match.
A lot of them have.
Yeah.
I regularly used to bowl 15 or 16 overs in a row in
In a test match.
in club cricket.
Club cricket.
Club cricket, because in club cricket when I first started, there wasn't
15 overs in a row.
There wasn't a limit on the number of overs. They only brought that in after a few years, and it became one-day cricket style. Beforehand, you could just keep bowling. So if you were a good bowler, you would get bowled.
How do you get to keep updated with these new regulations? Is there a subscription or journal you need to watch out? Are there announcements?
There'll be announcements from the ICC, ECB, Scottish Cricket. The newsletters will get sent out, emails will get sent out if you're registered.
So it's up to individual to keep up to date.
Yeah, it's up to the individuals to keep, and if you're interested, you'll obviously keep abreast of things. And going back to your last point about the Indian team, so the Indian under-19 team, had I not been injured, I didn't know who they were at the time because they weren't famous, but they are now. That under-19 team had Yuvraj Singh, Virender Sehwag,
wow,
Harbhajan Singh.
Okay.
So and Suresh Raina.
They were all in that team.
They were all in that team. So that was, that was at the time. Obviously, they weren't famous, but they became obviously the mainstays of the Indian Test team. So I was disappointed to obviously miss that. That's probably my biggest regret at the time, not having played against those players. But such is life.
Things happen for good. Maybe there were bigger things in store for you, probably. So I was talking about Brett Lee. I said he bowled 10 overs in a row. In one of the interviews, he said the hardest bit of a cricket match is a fast bowler's job.
Yeah,
that's the hardest bit. Is that right?
Yes, I would agree with that. I think the fast
not wicket keeping, not batting is the hard bowler's job, which is the hardest.
Yeah, fast bowler, because the fast bowler is there to bowl quickly. Their job is to bowl fast. They're not there. So you get different types of bowlers. You've got people like Glenn McGrath and people like that, who, if you're comparing Australia. So Glenn McGrath, he was a medium fast bowler. So I'm not saying his job wasn't hard. His job was hard, and he bowled beautiful line and length, and he was got loads of wickets, far more wickets than Brett Lee. But an out-and-out fast bowler like you mentioned, Brett Lee or Shoaib Akhtar, who are trying to bowl 150 kilometres an hour plus, that takes a lot out of the body, lot out of the body. The run-up, the jump and everything, it is extremely onerous on the body. And their job is to take wickets by bowling quick and skating batsmen on flat pitches, on pitches which are non-responsive. The idea is to blast people out, and their job is undoubtedly the toughest, and that's why a lot of fast bowlers get injuries and things. You need to be very fit and have a good stable body to last, and the bowlers that tend to last are the ones like Jimmy Anderson and those sort of guys who are slightly slower, so it's not taking as much out of the body, and they're the ones that overall have a longer usual career.
Okay. Okay. When you were bowling, what was your maximum speed?
Maximum speed. Well, I was, up until my injury, I was probably not as quite as quick as the international bowler. I was probably mid 120k. I was trying to obviously get up above 130k, which is really when you're playing for adult senior Scotland teams and stuff. Then that's the sort of speed you need to be at. The sort of speed that your Jimmy Anderson and Bhuvi Kumar and people like that bowl at's around the 130 mark. So
130.
So that's the medium fast type bowler.
That's miles per hour, kilometers per hour.
So the kilometres an hour. So the 130k, if you're bowling that sort of speed, you would do well on pitches which suit you. So on English pitches, conditions and stuff, you would do well. So that's the sort of speed you were trying to get up to. Basically, as a youngster, you're trying to keep increasing your speed and doing all the techniques to try and do that.
Okay.
So I was slightly below that, and I was trying to obviously make that transition, and that's when the bicep went.
And how did you recover from that?
Well, it took a long time, a lot of rehab, a lot of physio, and then gym work to strengthen the muscle again. But it probably was never going to be quite as strong. So I took the decision at that point that I wasn't going to try and be a out-and-out express, really fast bowler. And I would just consolidate into being a medium fast bowler and try and move the ball around, off cutters, leg cutters, in swing, out swing. And that actually worked for me because all my success after that was based on actually moving the ball and getting people caught in the slips and things like this rather than blasting people out, which I was doing as a youngster.
So you focused on the technique rather than speed?
Yes, because as a youngster it was the opposite. It was speed. Because of my height and my thing, I was for my age group I was quick, and you could bowl bouncers and stuff. But then I changed the way I was as a bowler because I thought that I was always going to struggle to be an out-and-out express bowler, and it worked for me. I did very well, and I enjoyed a lot of cricket playing and successful.
A lot of people say that to be a good fast bowler, you need to be a fast runner. Is that true?
It helps. I think it certainly helps. If you've got a quick run-up and a rhythmical run-up, which is quick. You look at some of the fast bowlers over the years, Michael Holding, Brett Lee, Bob Willis, they all got brilliant run-ups and stuff. The modern game has changed a little bit, though. So you do have some really quick bowlers with short run-ups, like Jasprit Bumrah. I mean, he's hardly got any run-up. He's not a great runner, but his is all in the shoulder. So a lot of fast bowling is to do... There's a lot of technique involved with the wrist position to give you extra speed, and how you, almost like a catapult, you have to throw back and then launch. So it's not all about the run-up. It's about, there's a lot of things which make up a fast bowler's action and gives them speed.
So it's not just about running fast.
It's not just the run, no.
Yeah.
No.
It obviously helps, but that's not the only thing.
It's not the only thing, no.
Okay. Tell me one thing. Always when we watch cricket, whether it's India or England, there's always a comparison with how the ball swings in England and it doesn't swing in India or subcontinent.
Yeah.
What's the difference? Why?
Yeah, it's the vagaries of science, I suppose. But you've got in England.
Try and explain to somebody who's a layman, like Cam. He probably doesn't know much about cricket. So how do you explain to Cam?
I think it's just to do with the weather conditions.
Okay.
It's to do with the weather conditions. So it's to do with, in England, the ball swings a lot.
Why?
And it's to do with the overhead conditions. It's to do with the fact it's cloud cover. So if you have cloud cover, the ball tends to swing more. So in England, you quite often...
What's the science behind it?
Good question. Nobody's quite understood why on a sunny day in a clear blue sky in England, the ball's not going to swing. But as soon as there's cloud cover and it gets overcast, the ball starts swinging.
There's no science behind it.
There probably is science behind it, but I mean, don't know. I couldn't answer exactly why it happens. There are other things as well, like if it's quite humid and there's moisture in the air, then the ball will also tend to swing more. But in dry and arid conditions like you have in India, which is just very, very hot, even if there's cloud cover and smog and all that sort of stuff, it just doesn't swing.
Okay.
So what they then try to do is reverse swing the ball, which is slightly different from conventional swing with the overhead conditions.
Okay. So you could do both?
Yeah, the reverse swing happens later. So swing happens later with the older ball, where basically you rough up one side, so it gets really dry. So that's works.
Why people keep rubbing.
Yeah, they rub one side shiny, and the other, and you want to keep no moisture on the ball. So the thing with the reverse swing is you don't want to. You probably see people putting sweat and spit on the ball and shining it. That's more for conventional swing. So you have one side really shiny. But with reverse swing, you want one side really rough and dry. That's why you see fieldsmen throwing the ball not straight into the wicketkeeper, but making it bounce before it reaches them, because they're trying to rough up one side.
Okay.
And on the old pitches are often quite dry, in the square. So that then roughs it up. And once it gets roughed up, you can it's the ball swings the other way around.
Okay.
There's initially there was only a couple of bowlers that used to do it, Wasim Akram, Imran Khan, but now it's a technique that a lot of bowlers can now do it, and it's a very effective technique when there's nothing happening and the pitches are flat. Then it makes for.
Since we are in the bowl side of things, I want to talk about the controversy which happened in the World Cup. There were comments made that Indian team were given special balls.
Yeah.
How far is that right? Is that possible? Is that possible?
I don't think so. I think it's just that some teams were a bit surprised how Mohammad Shami was swinging the ball so much and being so effective.
Yeah.
But I don't think the balls were switched. I think the key there was India bowled. I think in a lot of games they batted first.
Okay.
And then under lights, again, when you're saying about conditions, under lights, the first 10 overs, the new ball used to swing a lot under the lights. And I think that happened with quite a few teams. It just so happened that Mohammad Shami was extremely effective in using the swing and did very well. So no, I don't think the balls are switched. I just think he made use of the lights and things and the conditions very, very well.
I think there are 2-3 umpires who collectively go to the captains and so it's not individually, it can be switched or something.
No, they can't be switched or anything like that. No.
Okay,
no. So the balls obviously picked before the games and stuff like that, and they're coming from the same batch of balls. So the other team can pick a ball, but the batch of balls will all be made the same way. So no, there was no switching of balls. I think that's just theories. Yeah.
Okay. Tell me, what's the difference between a red ball and a white ball? I know red ball is used for
Test cricket,
and white ball is for 1 days.
So the red ball is used in Test cricket, and it tends to swing more, and it tends to be, as a bowler, you prefer bowling with the red ball. It does more. Don't know why. Nobody's quite worked out why, because it's basically the lacquer on the ball, where the white ball has got a different colour of lacquer. For some reason, the red ball...
Is it some kind of dogma or something?
It's not a dogma. It's just the red ball is... They're both made of cork. They're both made roughly the same way. It's just a different paint on it. But for some reason, the red ball, it just swings more. It swings more. It does more for longer. And as a bowler, you see in test matches the ball moving around, and then you watch one-day cricket and you see the white ball does nothing. It just gets hit around. I just think the lacquer on the white ball doesn't swing as much. It just doesn't. It doesn't move around. It tends to be a little bit harder for some reason. I find myself when I play with it. So I prefer bowling with the red ball. But obviously nowadays, modern cricket, 2020 cricket, ODIs... They both
weigh the same, 5.5 ounces.
They weigh exactly the same.
Okay.
They weigh the same. They're made of cork. They're made exactly the same way. They both have the same sort of seam. It's probably got something to do with the lacquer, the red lacquer and the white lacquer, but nobody quite knows why.
There's also now a pink ball.
There's a pink ball as well, yes.
I've never seen anybody play with pink ball. Have you?
They're using more pink ball in Scottish cricket now. I'll tell you the reason why. So the reason is that we play a lot of 2020 cricket in Scotland because we have long days in the summer. So we play a lot of 2020 cricket. Now, the reason we play with a pink ball is that if you have a white ball, you need to have a black side screen.
Black side screen.
So side screen is the bit behind the bowler's arm. so you can see the ball. If you throw a red ball out of a black side screen, you won't be able to see it.
Right.
It'll be hard to see. But fast bowler bowling, you need to have a clear image of the
better
picture.
visibility.
So that's why historically, when you see Test cricket, red ball, you'll have a white side screen, so it's easy to see.
Okay.
But then when you play a one-day game, you have to change it. White ball has to be a black side screen.
Okay.
So obviously, for a club to change the side screen or put a cover over it is very time-consuming and costly. So you can't do it. But we want to play a lot of evening cricket, and the white ball is more visible, as is a pink ball, because a pink ball is quite bright. But a pink ball can be played with a white side screen.
Okay.
So hence, that's why the evening cricket that we play with the pink ball and not the white ball.
Apart from the color, there's no other difference.
There's no difference. It's similar to the white ball, very similar to the white ball. The red ball still does more. The pink ball is very similar to the white ball.
Okay.
And they use it in test matches for the same reason. You can still play in whites, because you're not going to play with a white ball with white clothes. Spectators won't be able to see it. So that's the reason you play with a pink ball when they have the pink ball test you might have heard of, that they sometimes use a pink ball.
Okay. So how many hours do you play cricket every week till now? You're still involved with cricket, right? So how many hours do you dedicate to cricket?
Well, I don't play anymore. I stopped about 5 years ago.
Okay.
So I stopped playing 5 years ago, but I'm now, as you mentioned at the start, coaching and things like that. So
Okay.
I tend to, again, during the summer, I would be coaching and doing things maybe 4 times a week. As a hobby, I don't get paid for it or anything. I just enjoy giving back to the kids and seeing them grow. And then during the winter, a wee bit less. I do a little bit of indoor stuff with the kids and things, maybe
So
twice.
you're a
twice
bowling coach or overall coach?
Overall in course. So I specialise in bowling, but I also do the batting and the fielding, and I'm quite good at administration, so I do a lot of admin stuff. So again, I'm the chair of the junior the junior committee of that organises all the cricket in the West. So I enjoy doing all the paperwork and admin that's involved with setting up all the leagues and registrations and everything else that's involved with the setup. So I've got admin role in cricket and also a coaching role. And when I retired from playing, I wanted to still be involved in some capacity. So
why did you retire?
Just age. I think when you're as you get older, it's harder in cricket, as it is in a lot of sports like football and stuff. You can only play at a high level to a certain age, and club cricket in Scotland was actually a really high standard. It was quite a high standard that we played, and then once you're approaching 40, it gets harder to maintain and play that level and give the same commitment. Because to play that level, you have to train, you have to work hard, and then other commitments, as you now have kids and things, it's really hard to put that effort into it.
But your heart was still with cricket, that's why
my heart was still in cricket. But when I had to take some time off because of the kids and stuff, and then I came back and I was still playing first 11 cricket and stuff, and then I played a couple of second team matches, just didn't enjoy it as much. So when you drop down a level, it's just not the same. So as you get older, obviously the youngsters come through, so you then play some of the lower matches, and it's just not enjoyable. I didn't enjoy it. The same way, but having played a high level, I found it difficult.
Do you feel cricket has gained momentum back when you were playing, and now? Has it gained momentum or lost its way in Scotland?
I think
in Scotland,
I think it's become very professional. The Scottish players are now contracted, so they have contracts just like Indian players do and England players do. So they are full-time cricketers.
Did they get paid well?
No,
I'm asking because maybe some budding youngster might be wanting to join cricket.
They can make a living from it. They make a reasonable living from it.
Not like a football or something.
No, they'll make a living from it. It'll be like a decent salary, more than the average salary of somebody who's average salary of the person in the UK. But it's not going to be, silly money. But it gives them opportunity because you're contracted, you're professional. You might get a contract with one of these T20 leagues. You might make money from there. So you have opportunities to make more money. But obviously, like any sportsman, your time is limited. You've got a small window. of maybe 10, 15 years, and then obviously you're going to be too old, so you have to maximise that. And there have been some of the Scotland players who have not played in IPL, but they've played in some of the other T20 leagues around the world and made some money from that. And then there's some women cricketers who have played for the Women's Premier League in India. There's a few of the Scottish girls that have got picked for that. So there are avenues. If you're good and you're exceptional, then there's no reason why you can't.
Why there is no Scottish person, Scottish cricket person who has not played in IPL? What's the reason?
I think it's to do with exposure. I think that Scottish cricket doesn't have a lot of exposure. So they're not a bad team. They're about number 12 in the world, which is pretty good.
But you said they missed out the World Cup this time.
They just missed out in qualifying for the World Cup that happened in India. So they're very similar standard to, say, the Netherlands or Zimbabwe or Ireland. So they're that sort of level, just the level below the big teams. They beat West Indies to qualify for the final of the qualification process. So they are a good side. But they don't play that much international cricket.
Did you beat the Chris Gayle team?
No. I think that's the difference. I think the Scotland team now is actually quite good. I'm not saying we weren't good, but I'm saying the gap has narrowed. The gap has narrowed. I think when we were playing for Scotland back then and the senior team, we were semi-professionals. So we would still have a day job. And they would be paying us money on the side for taking time off work, etc., to come and play. Now it's professional, and as soon as you become professional, then you get the nutrition, the stats, the exercise regime, the programs. You're an athlete, so you get all of that stuff. So the gap narrows, and if you're training 7 days a week, learning how to play reverse sweeps, flicks over the head, all these funny shots, the gap will narrow. So what's happened is that the gap has narrowed and it's not as big as what it used to be. So some of don't look maybe at the big 3-4 sides, who are obviously very strong and have a lot of resources, but Scotland are not far away from having. They won't be thrashed by some of these big teams. It might happen once in a while, but they beat England. I mean, the year that England won the World Cup in 2019,
that'll be quite music to a lot of ears.
Scotland beat England at the Grange the year they won the World Cup, and it was a full England team with Ewan Morgan, Ben Stokes, everybody was playing, and that was the year England won the World Cup.
When was this?
This was in 2019.
That's quite recent.
Yep, very recent. A chap from my club, Callum MacLeod, scored 150 in that match for Scotland, and took the English bowling to the cleaners. So I think Scotland scored from memory about 350 and 50 overs.
That match was in England?
That was in Scotland. It was in Edinburgh. And England fell about 10-15 short, I think. Yeah. So historic performance and impressive win, but unfortunately the publicity from that and it sort of did. Scottish cricket after that should have really taken off, but unfortunately it didn't. I think the ICC could maybe fund it better, and I think that would make a big difference. So one of the reasons why Ireland have done so well is because they were pushed a lot by ICC. They did well in World Cups, and based on that, they then got funding, they got money, and they obviously then can use it on their infrastructure.
How does ICC help?
Well, it helps in terms of financial help mainly. If you give countries money, then Scotland can then use that money to have more coaches, have more grassroots cricket, try and encourage more people into the game, help the contracted players, take them on tours, all of that sort of stuff. And Ireland got all that, and they also got big games against a lot of the other countries. So for a long time, Ireland actually did very, very well, and they're now, I think, they're a test team, although they play on the lower countries. But Scotland, to be fair, are probably overtaken Ireland now in terms of ability. They're probably a better side at the moment, without the same funding. So if they got the funding, I think they would be even better.
Does ICC send coaches and stuff?
They do have coaching camps and stuff, yeah. So there will be camps that happen around the world in Dubai or in Spain. I think during the winter they have some camps where there are, some... Spain. They have La Magna in Spain is the one
So
of the.
Spain has a cricket team, is it?
I think they probably do. Yeah, I think they do. But it's a sporting academy that's
Okay.
based in Spain that a lot of the touring teams go to. Like England will go there as well, and they'll train there because they can't train outdoors, obviously, in the UK. So an academy has been set up. I don't know how it was set up, but there's an academy there. And I think at the moment the women's Scotland team are there at the moment, training and stuff. So Dubai is obviously a very common place to go in the winter, but there's Spain as well, and you would have coaches from everywhere that can be got, obviously.
Who is your cricketing idol?
Oh, MS Dhoni.
Dhoni.
Yeah.
Wow. I actually come from the same city as Dhoni.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he's probably 1 kilometer away.
Oh, okay.
So
Did you know him at all when he was growing up?
I met him twice actually. Once before he became successful, and once after he became successful. Very down to earth man.
Yeah.
He still meets his old friends.
Yeah.
When he goes back to Ranchi, although he lives in a
Yeah.
Fort Knox
Yeah.
somewhere outside Ranchi now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think, is there a MS Dhoni in Scotland in the making?
I think there's not going to be anybody like him anywhere in the world. I think he's a very special cricketer. I think there's a lot of talent in Scottish cricket. I don't think there's anyone quite at that level
Anyone
yet.
close enough to him?
No, I don't think so.
No Tendulkars, no Rachin.
Not in Scotland, no. I think not at the moment. I think there's a few very good players in the Scotland team at the moment, but they're not quite at that level yet where you can say they're superstars, if you know what I mean. There's perhaps going to be in the future. You can see a lot of, the kids that I tend to coach and stuff at, the Scotland under 15 level and stuff. You can see some of them. There's some really impressive young kids, but how they develop, you don't know, because it's all about how much funding they get, how much input they get. Because at the end of the day, unfortunately, if they have to go to that next level, they probably have to go and play in England, or they probably have to go elsewhere when they reach a certain age to go to that next level. So it's whether they're going to get that opportunity. But certainly at this age, there are some phenomenal 14, 15-year-olds coming through the system. Just depends what happens, because you can be a very good cricketer at 15, doesn't mean you're going to be a superstar at 22, 23. There's a lot happens in those 6-7 years.
Coming back to Scottish cricket, is the numbers growing? The interest of newcomers is growing, or has become less?
I think what's happening at the moment is I think numbers are tending to grow in Edinburgh. There's a lot of new players playing in Edinburgh.
Okay.
And that is in that area, particularly because of the private schools. So cricket is played at the private schools in Edinburgh.
Not in state school?
Not in state schools, no.
Why is that?
It was, I think, in around the 1980s it was taken off the curriculum. It was part of the curriculum before, and then it got taken off. So,
and any reason why?
Football, probably. Obviously when they're making the curriculum, they have to decide on what the priorities are. Cricket wasn't a very popular sport in Scotland. I'm guessing some of the parents were thinking, why are my kids playing this? And therefore it's slowly died away. But interestingly, there are more cricket clubs in Scotland than there are rugby clubs. So it is not as... A lot of people think cricket's not popular. It is actually quite popular. There are a lot of people that play. It's just it's not publicised.
Okay.
There's a lot of clubs in Edinburgh in the east. There's a lot of clubs in the west of Scotland. But what's happened is there's been a transition of players where beforehand you used to have predominantly local players playing. That's not the case anymore. And now in the west it's predominantly Asian players because of obviously the heritage from India and Pakistan. Where in Edinburgh is still locals, as well as people who've come from England who've gone to universities and stuff like that there.
Okay.
So it's a bit of a divide now happening, and that wasn't the case when I was growing up and I was playing, but it has happened gradually over the last 10, 15 years in the west of Scotland. There's more and more Asians playing. But as a union, what I'm chairman of, we are now trying to send coaches into schools to do after-school clubs, to try and introduce cricket to some of the kids, to try and promote it, to try and get more of the local kids playing again as well.
So there is effort from the club side of things.
Yes, the clubs are doing a lot to try and promote it, because for a sustainable club, you need to have kids ultimately to try and, otherwise the club will fold. And a lot of clubs have folded in the last 10 years. There have been many clubs that have folded, because of financial problems due to, bars and things like that. Because nowadays, it used to be, I remember when I was growing up, you would always, the club's always associated with a bar, a clubhouse. So you would finish the game, and obviously I was a kid initially, but all the adults would be having beer and stuff after the game, and they'd be driving home, which you can't do now because of the driving rules. So, you go for a training night, somebody might come in and have a can of Coke now. So it's just completely changed. So the bars don't run. So there's more financial pressures on clubs, as well as pressures on bringing youngsters into the game, because if you don't have players, you can't have a team, obviously. So there's a lot of pressures. So clubs have to do other things like hire out their halls for things and stuff like that, which is what we do. We hire out our hall at our local club to try and get more revenue, to try and fund all the costs, because it's an expensive sport, because you've got a big expanse of ground that you have to maintain, through the year.
Getting back to the ground, I used to think, and I know a lot of other people think, that pitches can be changed to suit a particular team. How easy is that, or is that a myth?
It's not a myth. You can do it, but it's very, very difficult. I think you have to. The pitch, a lot about the pitch depends on the conditions that you have in a particular country. So in Scotland, if you tell me I've got 4 spinners in my team, I want a wicket that's going to spin, it's very hard to produce a pitch in Scotland that's going to spin, because in order to produce a pitch like that, you're going to have very dry conditions, and it's not got to rain for a long period of time, so the pitch gets dry and cracked. So there are things you can do in a pitch. You can wet a pitch, you can roll a pitch, keep rolling it gets harder and harder and harder. So you can change the surface, yes. But there's a limit into how much you can do dependent on the weather conditions. It's easier when it's sunny, because you can artificially water the pitch. So if you have nice dry weather, then it's easier.
Does ICC not monitor these malpractices?
Well, they try to in recent years give penalty points and things like that to teams of substandard pitches. So in England, for example, they'll always try and put a lot of grass on the pitch so the ball swings and moves. And in India, obviously, the dust balls that spin and turn. But that's partly due to weather conditions, but partly also due to the fact that they're over drying the pitch or over putting grass on it when they're not cutting it and stuff like that. So, but all's fair in love and war. It's home and away games you play, so you go there, and you got to play in all conditions. And that's the beauty of Test cricket, that you're playing in all conditions. So the best team will win in all conditions. Where one-day cricket, majority of pitches around the world are just flat. So that's standardised almost, that the pitches get shaved, there's no grass on them, the ball doesn't move, it's a spectator, it's entertainment value, you try highest score wins. So there's less doctoring of pitches in the one-day game. Well, we won't talk about the World Cup, because there was a little bit of, I think India obviously changed the condition of some of the pitches they thought that was going to benefit them, which probably backfired in the final. But overthinking it sometimes is a bad thing. You should just play in what's in front of you, and the best team wins.
Okay. When we as a layman think about pitches, we think there's just soil and grass, but actually there's a lot underneath, like drainage system.
Yes.
And can you explain more?
I mean, I'm not a groundsman, but I mean, basically there is a lot of drainage that goes underneath the square, because the important thing about cricket is you can't play cricket in your back garden, for example, because the ground's soft. No matter how much sun you're going to get during the summer, even in a dry summer, it's still going to be a bit bumpy and a bit soft. So it's really important to have good drainage, so that any water and rain seeps through.
They have actual pipelines or something?
Yeah, we've got in our ground, we'll have the various drainage systems underneath the square that are going out from the square and out of the ground, and they'll be going
They
to a drain.
sloped up also?
So our ground is, yes. So we have a slight slope, so the square is slightly raised, and then everything goes down. So that way, the square stays drier and harder, and then you constantly roll the pitch and roll the square, so it gets harder and harder. And you selectively water it as well, and then roll it again to make sure it gets nice and hard. And then if you have a heavy deluge of rain, if you've got good drainage, it should drain away very quickly. That's why you see in a lot of the international matches, you can have a heavy rainstorm and the ground dries very, very quickly. You can be back on in half an hour or an hour because of the drainage system. It is quite impressive that the international grounds have some really impressive, especially in England where it rains a lot. They have installed some, terrific drainage system in Edgbaston, Old Trafford. They dry very, very quickly. You wouldn't think they would be able to play, and it stops raining and they're on in an hour. It's quite impressive.
Okay. Regarding fitness, as a player, what kind of diet you need to have? Is there any particular diet you need to?
I think it's like any athlete. I think it's being lifestyle advice is very important. Exercise, diet for anyone's health, but in particular for a sportsman, you have to eat healthily and eat nutritious as well, because you need energy to perform. So it's eating the right things. It doesn't mean eating chocolates and crisps to gain energy. You have to eat lots of fruit, vegetables, and pasta, and eat the right sort of things to give you the energy to make you perform for a whole day. Because cricket's slightly different from tennis or from a shorter sport where you're maybe on the pitch for maybe an hour or two, like football, where they need high energy drinks just before they play because it's a very short game. Cricket, you need to maintain that performance for a longer period of time. So it's important you have the slower acting, slow release carbohydrates, which are going to release the energy throughout the whole day. But then again, nowadays, you have all the nutritionalists and stuff. Even in Scotland team, you've got all of these people who will advise the players on their nutrition and their diet and what they shouldn't and shouldn't be eating.
There's a big trend going on about intermittent fasting. Everybody wants intermittent fasting, but I was reading a book by the fitness guy for Indian cricket team, and he says intermittent fasting is for normal people. Yeah. But like a sports person, intermittent fasting is not good for them, because
it's not.
They need energy, and intermittent fasting is kind of taking the muscles away. Yeah. So probably not a good idea.
No, not a good idea for a sportsman, because you want to increase the muscle bulk. You need to be eating high protein, high carbs diet to give that energy for you to perform on the pitch. And I think if you're intermittent fasting, I think you knock off. And even you notice the Pakistani cricketers during Ramadan and things like that, a lot of them actually do eat during the course of a game, and they'll do their fasting out with the match. Okay. Because it's very hard to play cricket for that length of time, without having energy in your body. And your performance will obviously dip. So intermittent fasting is not a good idea for sportsmen in general, I would say.
Yeah. What's a yo-yo test? We talk about yo-yo test. So what exactly involves a yo-yo test?
So yo-yo test, I remember doing them, is basically where you have a marker, say 20 meters apart, and you have to run between them. And it gets quicker and quicker and quicker. So initially you can walk the 20 meters, and you need to walk it 5 times, and then there's a beep, and you have to make sure you're back within the beep. And then the next time the speed will increase. And if you don't make it back before the beep, then you're basically knocked out.
So it's basically running between two cones at a particular rhythm or time.
At a particular rhythm and speed, and you need to keep increasing your speed. It'll be getting faster and faster. So
it must be tough, because lots of cricketers fail that test.
Yes, because there's a minimum level to play. Well, each country has their own limit. So I think India is level 16 or something like that, which is quite a high level to achieve. Because even, you're running, one level would be about 500 meters, 5 sprints. But you're going to have to therefore run a mile at ever increasing speed. Every 100 meters you have to run.
So which cricket team has the highest level of yo-yo test?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure which it is.
But India is
I'm not
16,
sure.
which is quite high.
It's 16. I think England and Australia would be my bet that they would probably have quite a high standard to achieve. But I think India's is about 16 and to the minimum standard. And, there have been a few cricketers that would struggle, I think, to quite make that. But whether they bend the rules for them or not, I don't know. Certainly the youngsters coming in, if they don't reach that, I don't think they would play. And I know some of these Indian cricketers haven't met the target and therefore haven't got picked. I think Prithvi Shaw, didn't make it, and there was a few others who didn't make the level required, so was told to go back and do some more fitness training. So they are quite strict with the youngsters. The ones who are in the team at the moment, I don't know if they have the same strictness with them or not. But certainly the likes of Kohli.
I think it all started with Kohli.
Kohli's super fit.
Is the guy who...
Kohli's like Novak Djokovic. He's a super fit athlete. Yeah. The stuff he can do is incredible. He's very, very fit.
We hear a lot of buzzword like Bazman cricket. What is this Bazman cricket?
So Bazman, I think you mean Bazball. Bazball. So Bazball is something that was introduced by England with their coach Brendan McCallum. Okay. So Brendan McCallum's nickname is Baz.
Okay.
So he basically...
Brendan McCallum is New Zealander.
He's a New Zealander who used to be a very aggressive captain and batsman, being a very attacking player. So England were not doing very well in the Test arena. So England put out for a coach position and he applied. And he basically was saying, I'm going to be coach. And with the captain, they decided they were going to play a different form of cricket, which is to be very aggressive. So almost to play Test cricket like one-day cricket and be very aggressive, attack the bowling, not defend too much, play all the reverse sweeps and funny scoop shots you see in one-day cricket but you never used to see in Test cricket. He said, why not play them in Test cricket? Put the bowler off and try these shots. So the same team that was losing most games in Test cricket, England, they had the same team. They tried this new method and they were actually quite successful because other teams were a bit shell-shocked about how they were playing, not knowing how to respond. And they did well until they got to India. But in certain conditions, it works very well. If you're playing on flat pitches, it works well. And it worked well in England. They've achieved a lot. They've done very well. But at times, they get criticised because, it's a 5-day match and they're playing as if they're trying to win the game in a day. So they can lose wickets. They can lose the game as a result of playing too aggressive. But the other way of looking at it is it gives them opportunity to win a match as well. So, there's probably a place for it, but you can't do it all the time. And I think that was the problem with England. I think they were trying to play that way all the time. And I think there has to be a balance. It's a good concept, it's a good idea. And at the right time in the match, it's a good way to play, but not all the time.
Sorry, I'm trying to clear off some layman terminology, which is stuck in my head, but I never got to research those answers. Why do we call a duck when somebody goes out for a zero? Why do we call a duck?
Duck.
Where does that come from?
I'm not sure where it comes from, actually. But yeah, when somebody gets out for zero, it's called a duck. And
Why?
When somebody gets out first ball, it's called a golden duck.
Golden duck.
A golden duck.
Okay.
And if you get out in a Test match for a duck in both innings, it's called a pair.
Pair.
Yeah. So there's lots of terminology. I'm not quite sure where it all comes from.
Okay.
But
a lot of people say because the duck egg looks like a zero, but lots of eggs look like a zero.
I'm not sure. I just remember in World Series cricket when Kerry Packer was commercialising the sport in the 1970s. So obviously there was very little money in cricket up until the late 70s, 80s. And Kerry Packer was this media mogul from Australia who basically got all these players, gave them coloured clothing, and they were called rebels because he took them out of Test cricket and one-day cricket to play. And he commercialised the game. And one of the things he did when somebody got out for a duck was, on the TV, a wee duck would come walking along the screen, and things like that. So he did stuff like that. Now, I'm not sure if he developed that terminology of duck and he put the duck on the screen for a zero, or if it happened before that. I'm not sure. But I just remember watching as a kid.
Yeah, even I remember those ducks.
And seeing the ducks coming. If somebody got a zero, you would see a duck walking along the screen.
Yeah.
So, these are just all concepts.
Back in '83, when India won the World Cup with Kapil Dev, did you watch it live? Because that was never telecasted in India. It was all on the radio.
I would have been very young, so...
Don't remember?
No, I would have been 4 or 5 years old, so I wouldn't have remembered. But
I vaguely remember a little bit. Maybe playbacks.
I mean, I'm sure it would have been televised at the time. It was in England, obviously, and my parents were keen on cricket, so I'm sure I was made to watch it. But but the only thing I can now remember is obviously the movies come out, so watching the movie and stuff.
I
is
actually
quite
acted in that movie.
Oh, did you?
Yeah,
okay.
I was one of the
extras,
party people behind Ranveer Singh when they won the match, and I was drinking cocktail at the back. You can see me blurry 1 minute image of mine, but it was fun.
Yeah.
So when you decided to play cricket, normally Indian parents are. You have to become a doctor or engineer. Fuck this sports person thing.
Yeah.
First, you need to study. Were your parents like that, or did they support you?
No, they always supported me to play cricket. I mean, I personally never went out to play cricket to as a profession. I played it as a hobby, and it just so happened I was quite good at it and managed to play all that representative stuff. They were always very supportive. I unfortunately. Continued to play through medical school when I was a doctor. Never missed any matches. Day before my medical finals, I was playing cricket. It was just one of those things. I had that
day before your final exam.
The day before my final exam, I was playing cricket. Yeah. When I was in the hospital, I would always change my shifts to make sure that I was able to play the game. So I've always a love for cricket. The passion for cricket was always there. And I think because I was also doing well in my studies, my parents were quite happy for me to do both. I think if I were to turn around to them and say, I'm not going to continue with my studies, I'm going to just play cricket, they might have got upset. But that was never the case. I was always doing both of them and successful. So, yeah.
You balanced it well.
Yeah.
Okay. How important is sledging during a match?
Sledging? Oh. Yeah. Sledging is... it can be very, very useful in getting under the skin of a batsman.
Okay.
Not
the bowler.
Sorry?
Not the bowler?
To a lesser extent. I think because if you think about it, there's 2 batsmen in the middle and there's 11 of the opposition. So
it's a number game.
So it's a numbers game. So all the pressure's on the batsman, especially when they first come into bat.
Okay.
So there is a way to put the batsman under even more pressure by giving them comments and saying things to try and put them under pressure. Sometimes the batsman will retort back. But that's you kind of getting him under his skin.
Brett Lee was quite famous for sledging.
Yes, Brett Lee was Shane Warne. There are lots over the years. Australians are very good at sledging. It's a bit harder now with the stump mics and stuff like that. So they record everything. But sledging is part of the game, and it's also good fun.
I think heard the Australian team actually does research on each individual player.
Yeah.
What their weaknesses are.
And they'll try and
not only on field, off field as well.
Yeah.
So what are they problems outside the field? And they do the research and then sledge.
Yeah. Some of the sledging can be quite nasty. Some of them is just good fun. But I mean, I quite enjoyed the fun of sledging to a certain extent because you're on the pitch with 11 mates for the whole day, and it actually livens things up if you're having a joke. You're not saying it directly to the batsman, you say it to one of your teammates, but you're talking about the batsman. So it's good fun and good banter, and it makes the game more interesting. I personally think it makes the game more interesting. And, some batsmen just get under pressure when all of that happens.
One of the Australian players told one of the other team members Yeah, you got a nice T-shirt. Thank you, thank you. How much did you buy it from your little brother? So the only person some of them avoid sledging is like Tendulkar or Brian Lara.
Yeah, yeah.
Because they know if they sledge them,
Yeah.
they might switch on a different monster in them.
Yeah, yeah.
Like happened with Yuvraj Singh.
Yes.
He hit 6 sixes.
Yes.
He touched the wrong
He got
knob.
upset. He touched the wrong knob. I mean, I can tell you a story about Brian Lara. So he, the Scotland captain, about 10 years ago, not 10 years ago, even more than that, maybe 20, 25 years ago, he was playing with England, against England team. And England in that team had David Gower. So David Gower, obviously very famous English cricketer. So he had this, he was a bit of a nutcase, the captain. Everybody knows David Gower's left-handed. But what he told all the players was, when he comes out to bat, what we'll do is, we'll pretend he's right-handed and set the field up as if he's a right-hander. So that's what everybody did. And then when he came out to bat, obviously he comes and he's left-handed, as everybody knows. So then he shouted out, "Oh, this guy's a lefty, he's a lefty." And then everybody had to move around the field. The reason for doing that was indirect sledging, by basically saying, we don't know who this guy is, he's not anybody famous, we thought he was right-handed. So anyway, sure enough, the bowler bowled, Gower edged it, caught slip, out, gone. So that worked. He tried to do the same thing with Brian Lara, and Brian Lara went and scored 150 balls. So
it can backfire.
Yeah, so the little intricacies of just trying to get under the batsman's skin.
Did you do sledging back in your days?
A little bit of sledging, yeah, but I was a nice man. I usually left it to one of the other players to do, but occasionally I would get involved. you know, so it was good.
Cam, how much time we have left? You're almost done, is it?
You're an hour now.
Okay, over an hour.
So 1 hour, 1 minute.
Okay, we almost finished now. Okay, Ricky, we are almost at the end of our podcast. We talked about so many things: yo-yo test, baseball, sledging, future of Scottish cricket. What advice would you give for future generations of Scottish boys or girls who want to pursue cricket as a career? What are the avenues here?
I think they just have to work very, very hard. I think they have to train hard, practice hard, make sure they're getting good coaching, and not just play once or twice a week. They need to train hard. They need to go to the gym. They need to eat, watch the diet, and they need to do stuff in their own time. There's a lot of stuff now available on YouTube and on the internet about, you can almost teach yourself how to bowl in swing or out swing, or if you're struggling to bowl a certain delivery, you can watch on internet and find these things out. And sometimes it helps to see it than to be told it. So the watching these videos are very useful, and they have these things that we didn't have when I was growing up. So there's so many things that they can have. So it's an education, and they got to constantly be working hard if they want to make it.
Okay. Apart from playing, can they do anything else like umpire training or something?
Yeah, I mean, there's umpiring coaching courses in Scotland. There's coaching. You can become a coach as well. You can get your coaching certificates and stuff like that. There's also.
And where is that, in Glasgow or Edinburgh? Or?
So it's throughout the whole country. So it'll be organised by Cricket Scotland, the coaching courses. So once you get up to, there's level 1, there's level 2. Once you get up to level 3, then you tend to have to go to one of the centres in England, because you need to be coaching high-level players to do this, and video analysis and various other things. So that you would need to go down south for.
So
but
there are a lot of
avenues. And same with umpiring. There are a lot of umpires. One of the Scottish umpires was umpiring the ICC tournaments. So you can, in the same way as a player, you can go to the top, as well as an umpire, you can reach the top as well.
And also, when you were playing, there was only one thing: national team, and that's it, or club cricket. But nowadays, with all these Premier League, IPL and stuff, there's so much opportunity.
Yes.
If you're good, you'll be picked up.
Yes.
I heard that in India, in Shivaji Park, literally, like, somebody wants to act in a movie, he flocks around the studio, and looks for a role, demands a role, or does audition and stuff. The same thing is happening with IPL. Random boys and girls from small villages and cities are ending up in Shivaji Park, and they show their talent, and they are picked up by these clubs. It's like picked up for a movie or something now. They don't have to play state cricket. They don't have to play Ranji. They can go straight to IPL.
Yeah, they can, and then from there go to Indian team. So, and that's happened. It's happened to a few of the youngsters that they've got picked up from the parks because they've got some sort of talent that nobody else has, and they've been picked up from there without having gone through the state structure, which is great. Is brilliant for them, and is brilliant for Indian cricket that there are other ways to. For Indian cricketers to make money and for locals to see that there's opportunity to try this sport. And I think a lot of people in India would have taken up cricket because of that.
If somebody wants to learn from you, how do they get in touch? Do they contact your club? Which club? Is that?
I play for Uddingston.
Uddingston. So if they go to Uddingston, they can ask for being coached by
they can, or if they want to be coached by anybody specific or whatever, they can contact the district union, which I'm the chairman of, and I can put them in touch.
There's a website for...
Yeah, there's a website, and I can put them in touch with a batting coach or bowling coach if they're looking for something specific. Then they can be put in touch with them if they're wanting some one-to-one coaching.
Well, that's the end of our podcast. Thank you very much for joining in. We gained a lot of knowledge from you. A lot of myths have been broken. And thanks for coming in. It was an honor to have you here. Hope to have you again after some time, probably after a series of World Tournament or during World Tournament.
Yeah, indeed.
We'll have another podcast. But thank you so much, Ricky. There's a small gift for you.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thanks.
So,
thank you very much.
That was Ricky Bawa, Scottish Player of the Year back then. And I hope that you learned a lot of things about cricket from this podcast. Stay tuned for more informative information. Please do like and subscribe us. Only 30% of people actually subscribe to these podcasts. They do listen to it, but they don't subscribe. Please subscribe. It'll help us get more nice guests like Ricky Bawa. And stay tuned for the next episode. Thank you very much.